Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Design as You podcast. I wanted to record a little intro right now for the following solo episode, all around how to actually timeline shift, decondition from all of the limiting beliefs, the limiting thoughts, the illusionary thoughts that you are separate from divine life force, creative energy. And this has been a practice that I brought together. It came through me just recently with all of my favorite modalities and wisdoms in a practical way. So you can be able to have a tool that will create real change in your life. What has helped me is to almost see it as a little bit of a game, a hack. It's the real energetic hack to life. And I truly feel like if you understand this, you will go far in life. You will have an extraordinary life. But if you believe in your smallness, if you believe in your illusions, if you believe in what is not possible, you will have a small life. And that's a choice, but it needs to be a conscious choice, not an unconscious choice based on being an autopilot or not knowing that there's any other difference, all based on your own defensive mechanisms that it's safe for you to stay small or it's safe to stay in your comfort zone because then you won't feel any form of discomfort or fear. But if you desire to have an extraordinary expansive life, there will be fear and there will be the disillusion of all of the smallness or the thoughts or the ego that will tell you that what is not possible for you or will tell you that it is not safe to expand or explore this. And yeah, we can defend our stories. We can defend those limiting thoughts. And even worse, can become unconscious to how that they are creating your life. And so I wanted to record here a podcast about the tool and the practice that I honestly use every day, multiple times a day, when I feel in my lower self energy, when I feel in my not self energy, when I'm believing or I am blended with any thought or illusion that I am not enough or I am somehow separate from what is possible. And we just need to normalize that that is part of being human. It's not anything to feel shameful about. It's not anything to ridicule yourself in because that creates more of the energy of judgment, which is what we're here to become free from and what we're here to love on and to liberate from. And so when we can see and allow and notice any unconscious thought that comes our way that tries to tell you that something is wrong, something is missing, that something is not possible, and really, really attune to where you're in your lower self frequency, because that will create a lower state. You will be in lower timelines. And every single moment of every single day, you are being given an opportunity to transform darkness into light, transform fear into love, to transform negativity into positivity. And that will dictate your life experience here. We need to realize that will honestly create your life experience. And we've seen that science and physicists are showing us that your frequency, and see, this is the thing, all in the 90s. In the 90s, early 2000s, with all the Abraham Hicks of like your frequency, your thoughts, these create your life. But there was no tools given. There was no tools given of how do we actually shift our frequency? How do we actually create this change in our life? What's a practical way? And that's what I'm offering you here today. It's a combination with all the practices and all the wisdoms that I love, which are human design, as you all know, human design, Kabbalah, Vedic wisdoms, somatics, IFS parts work, and as I said, physics and your frequency, and understanding that when you come back or you reconcile or you reinvigorate from love. And what I notice, and I see this, even people in this line of work where they come out or they approach self-development or spirituality from a place of judgment, from a place of self-ridicule, but also ridicule to others or fear and control of others. And there's like this underlying judgment energy. And what can also happen, for example, even if you're using or working with parts work, too much dwelling in making sense of what a part had to go through, which in essence is just staying in victimhood. It's staying in the victim state of the part that at one point, maybe you went through a fearful experience or you went through a traumatic experience, and absolutely to validate that experience. But if you are constantly reliving, and this is why talk therapy isn't always so helpful for a lot of people, because you're reliving the same negative, lower frequency energy. And science as well is proving this, that it's not that we need to revisit everything. You don't need to revisit all your traumas. You don't need to revisit and make sense of all that has happened to you. It's just that you need to shift the energy around it. So instead of being and almost staying in that loop of fear and victim and not enoughness or can't trust, and continuing to replay that past experience out in your future, all we need to do is to connect with a fearful or doubtful part and give it love. Give it love. Let it be seen. And that is the corrective experience. That is the only experience that you need. Because in essence, all of these wisdoms, all of the tools, everything, all it is giving us is to come back into the frequency of love, which I would argue is your frequency of truth, which I would also argue is your higher self energy. So we just need to be constantly aware, where are you in the lower frequency, the lower energy of your doubt, of your fear, of your insecurity, and transform and see that life is constantly giving you these little invitations and these little opportunities by bringing it to the forefront, often through a challenge or through some form of discomfort. So you are able to transform that energy in that moment from fear, lack, disbelief or doubt into love, knowing, trust, and surrender. Surrender, trusting where life force is directing you in that moment, and not stay in the judgment or the disbelief or the lack. And it comes through a lot of ego of like, you're wrong, I'm right. This is the one way. And this like almost God complex. And that will only keep you in a lower frequency. That will only keep you in a lower timeline. Feeling like everyone else needs to get it. They don't get it. They're all surface level, or there's any form of judgment around that. That is just going to keep you on a lower timeline. So today we are going to be exploring how to actually timeline shift and how life will give you these opportunities in every moment, in every day. And your only invitation or your only job is, how do I transform this energy of fear or discomfort into love and into compassion and into intuition, trusting and following your intuition? Because it all comes down to, how can I transform this into a loving thought and action? Because when you move from that place, you are shifting timelines. And when you shift timelines, you will meet people in a different energy. You will connect with people that you may not have connected with on a lower frequency or lower timeline. This is where you meet people that share your values, or you meet your soulmates, or you meet your business collaborators, or you connect with aligned clients. Or this is where you quite literally as well meet a different version of your current partner or your current friends, because you're reaching a different timeline. All of a sudden in your expansion, and I say all of a sudden, but you know that you've done the energetic work, and it doesn't have to correlate of how it all plays out. It's not going to make logical sense how by you not reacting to an angry family member will then mean that you increase your sales in your business. But it doesn't always correlate, but it is that you are shifting into a higher timeline where you are having a higher experience, you are in your highest self, and then you are receiving higher results and higher outcomes, because that's the frequency that you are operating, and you will move in different energy from that place. Your actions will be aligned because you are no longer in the lower self frequency, you are in the higher self frequency. And that is from love. And that's it. That's it. So you don't have to go all into the depths and the heaviness and the hardness. And it's, what is this being invited from me, and how can I step into that energy right now? And this is what has been said for millennia, for centuries and centuries, but we just didn't have the tools. And so today I'm going to provide you with a really great practical tool, day in, day out, and just watch your life transform. Honestly, watch your life transform. And this is where you're coming from self-love and intuition. You're moving towards your aligned path. And I just want to normalize that there's going to be discomfort. I'm just going to normalize that it's not always going to feel easy. And we need to like get rid of this story that everything feels easy and it should feel super flowy. No, you're expanding, and that means it's going to stretch you. And that's what we're here for. We're here for an expansive energy. So we've got some exciting things that are happening over here. I'm like, honestly, I don't know if this is going to trigger, but I am thriving in this eclipse season. I just really release, again, I release any narrative that anything is negative. I believe that Saturn is showing you blind spots that are for your better good. So I'm like, great, thank you, grateful, wow. Then you'll see me go through the power practice of wow, what an opportunity that I'm being given to totally shift something that I wasn't aware of. It was creating my life unconsciously. So I'd rather be aware of it so I can create change forward. And so when you truly see that everything, like you are energetic frequency. And so the thoughts you think, the action you create matters and it's going to come back to you. And so even a thought, you don't even let an unconscious thought go past because you have an opportunity in that moment to shift it and to be able to transcend and move into a different timeline, because from there you are going to receive and experience from your higher self frequency. And I just want to normalize that we're going to go in and out of this. And I want to remind you that judgment, any form of judgment, you will be the sufferer. Just like, can I say that again? Judgment, especially spiritual judgment, you will suffer from your own judgment. And, and we hear this as well. Like people are like, I worry about what people think of me. No, you believe that there is something shameful or something that you worry about people thinking about you. And it's that reflection in that mirror of what if other people find out? What if other people reflect that fear? If you don't feel like you have anything to be judged or anything to worry about, you'll go and do your thing and it's just people will say what they want because people speak. And so when you can be so clear and honed in of your higher self vision, and notice even just that example of what will people think? Pause. What an opportunity I'm being given to transcend this limiting belief, this limiting thought, because that limiting thought will then mean that you procrastinate. That limiting thought means that you won't share. That limiting thought means you won't start that podcast. That limiting thought means you won't start that Instagram. That limiting thought will mean that you won't start the business that you want. And the thing is we can defend our limiting thoughts. Like, honey, I have gate 39 as a projector. Do you know how many times I have heard or even received the reflection of like, no, but that's not how it is. And you get this defensive energy of like, no, you just don't get it. You don't live in X, Y, and Z. You just don't get it, And I pause and I'm like, it's interesting that provoked something that you then became defensive of your story, because a big part of my role and my job, part of my purpose is to ask questions that can trigger that. And it's really interesting. I can even speak, even with one friend, I just asked her of like, why do you have such a belief that this is hard? And it was about finding a home. And yeah, when you can hear this almost like defensiveness of defending your own limitations or defending your own limiting thoughts, because in reality, everything is possible. So whenever you're defending of like, you don't get it, you don't experience me, that is in victimhood. And that's going to keep you on a lower frequency, a lower timeline. So we just need to be so honest with so much radical love. It's not in any way that we're not being compassionate to self, but we're just being honest with ourselves. So enjoy this podcast. I felt like I needed to do a little bit more of an intro about how we're going to be practically shifting and changing timelines, because what is the whole point of that? You have a higher experience, you have a more aligned experience, and you see that the whole point of you being here is to shift and to evolve into your truest, most free, limitless self, and be on the timeline where you get to experience what it's like to have abundant life force energy and receive abundantly and create abundantly and contribute abundantly, because that is your true nature and that is what is possible. When we're in a lower self frequency, that's when you have disbelief and believe that you are separate from that you are somehow separate from life force. You are somehow separate from infinite possibility. You're somehow separate from receiving love or abundance or stability or safety. And when you realize that you are the person that is determinant of whether you're in victim consciousness or creator consciousness, and that's going to be through whether you are in your highest self frequency and creating higher timelines and saying yes to the initiations that you've been given and the opportunities and invitations as they present, and seeing that you can shift a timeline in those moments. And it's not going to make sense to the logical mind, or you have the choice of staying in the lower frequency and thus for a smaller life. And that's okay, but that's a choice. That's a choice. So enjoy this one. I'm actually going to record right after this about this higher and lower self energy. And we're going to bring in about the centers in human design, because that has been by far the greatest awareness of understanding when I'm in my conditioning, when I'm in my lower self and not self, because we're going to go through all the centers, all the energy centers within the human design chart. That will give you so much awareness, because when you have awareness, you can create change. If you don't have awareness, you're just going to continue to recreate the past and then wonder why you feel crappy and burnt out and frustrated and unfulfilled. So I'm going to record that next. Let me know if you have any questions below. I'm very excited. I'm like full, just the channel is open. The channel is open. I am very continued excited to share what I've been pondering, what I've been experimenting with, the teachings I've developed. And I'm so excited for our upcoming certification. It starts this month. The doors are opening. So you can jump in and jump into all the modules, but it's going to be big. It's going to be big. I'm really excited. We're not messing around anymore. We're going deep and I'm very, very excited. So make sure to sign up for the waitlist. 22nd of September, the doors do open. So jump on in. It will change your life. Like I say that with full integrity. And I hope you know that all of my work and everything that I do comes with so much love, integrity, truth. Hand on heart, your life will change. And I know that people say that, but I've seen it. I've seen it with hundreds of students that have gone through the certifications. I'm so excited for this. You won't find any other certification on the market that is this in depth, this much care and love, and this much access to the teacher. That's another thing. I was just receiving reflections about how different it would be if you couldn't contact me and we couldn't chat and we couldn't have an open discussion. And me being present in your journey and mentoring and answering questions, because you don't receive that in a lot of other spaces. So that's a big passion of mine is 3740. I want you to feel part of the journey with us and just watch your life change. Just watch your life change. Okay, enjoy this one. And thank you so much for being here. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today has been highly requested, actually. I've been receiving very similar questions, which always indicates to me as a projector of something to share about, speak about, and also it's been percolating within me. It was an intention this year to start to bring together all the things that I have been experimenting with, embodying, integrating in my system. I'm a one line in human design, which reflects my thirst for knowledge, my desire to learn. And as you know, I love to incorporate all different modalities and also just what has worked for me and my clients. And yeah, I've been receiving about what I do on the day to day. And it got me reflecting because it ain't visualizing. It ain't journaling. It's not any of the stereotypical tools, definitely at points in my life, but I dipped in and out. And the only thing that has stuck around is my devotion to self and my devotion to divine, to my growth, to what I'm creating here. And I've spoken about this, how when we have an energy that is bigger than us, our life force, our prana, our true self, our soul, our higher self, this is what's moving us forward. And we have different timelines here. We have different destinies, parallel destinies that are happening in every moment. And we choose based on our response to life, based on our consciousness of what parallel destiny we experience. And so if you have a desire, that is a knowing, it is a vision for the future that is drawing you in. The thing is time is not linear. Time is vertical in the fact that all of that is happening right now in this moment. And it's just you choosing and moving into a different timeline that happens in the everyday. Now, for over about 6 years, I've been in my self-development spiritual journey. And just to give you an idea, I can't even explain how negative my point of view was, how negative I was to myself. My self-concept was so low. My inner dialogue, I was enmeshed with these protector parts or these not enough parts that were telling me that I couldn't do anything that I desired or wanted. And I really cared what people thought. I was so entrapped in appearances, in comparison, in what I should do. I felt like my whole identity was around that. And it felt almost life and death at one point. But I took it day by day, step by step. And from all that I've learned, I want to share a framework I've been recently. Well, it just came through me in a walk yesterday, bringing together. And I want to really acknowledge all the incredible wisdoms and schools of thought and sciences that I have received over the years. And this has just been a framework I've been playing with that's been working wonders. And so when people ask me like what I do on the day to day or what are the practices that have helped me grow this business, have helped me create this life that I am so grateful for. I can't even explain to you how different my life used to be and how different my relationship to myself used to be. I didn't believe that my current life, how I live right now, and that gives me so much motivation in knowing that what I am feeling into, that is my future drawing me in. And that's what we need to realize. Your future is drawing you in through the next intuitive steps, through the visions that you have right now, through the pings or the callings, the little inklings of this could be something, or there's something here, or do this thing, or don't do this thing. It is this intuitive awareness that comes when you are aware of how life works. Now, I'm going to put a little clip that I, of course, the consciousness of the algorithm pops this into my awareness. And I just wanted to share this. It's from Joe Dispenza, of course. Just speaking about this, and then we're going to go into around timeline jumping, how you have the power to create. And it's not from a place of cause and effect. This is what we think. We think if I do X, I receive Y. This is from linear time. This is not how it works. You are constantly given opportunities and invitations to expand into a different timeline, to evolve yourself in some way. There's going to be similar patterns. There's going to be similar invitations or initiations that are activating your true life force energy, your soul self. And when you are doing that, you receive and you align with what you are calling in. So it's a natural, inevitable manifestation. It's not that you have to figure everything out. It's that you, in every moment, life will present you the opportunities and the lessons and the learnings through experience. And then from there, how you respond and how you proactively respond is going to elevate you into becoming the person who it becomes a natural follow-on effect than what you desire. Now, we have to remember that's the whole point of us being here, is that we're here to evolve in some way, to become more free, to realize our divine, gorgeous, loving self. And with that, we need to become so aware of the stories and the patterns in our life. And life will always try and show you where you are keeping yourself small or stuck, or in your illusions, in the limiting stories that are there for you to transcend, are there for you to liberate yourself from. And so when we can see that in the everyday, you're getting these invitations, and this is how you call in what you're calling in. And it's going to feel unrelated. It's going to be like, how does this relate with my love life? How does this relate with my work life? Because you're becoming a free life force energy that is moving and following its prana, its natural flow. And so we're going to be shown ways where that is constricted, and that needs almost a releasing, a surrendering, or a tightening up. It's going to depend. It's going to be so much about the self-talk that we have to ourselves. So when you become so aware of the limiting, constrictive, just habitual ways of thinking, because again, we remember that our perception creates our reality. So if you have this perception of not enoughness, lack, scarcity, fear, that's going to be reinforced in your reality. All energy returns to the sender, as we spoke about last solo episode. And so when you can be so conscious of every thought that comes through your brain, through your awareness, and you can shift, reframe, and transform the energy of that, this is how you transform and change and move into parallel destinies. This is how you actually bring in and connect to what you desire. So let's let Joe take it away, and then I'm going to come back to me.
Stop telling the story of your past and start telling the story of your future. Stop believing in your past, real or imagined, and start believing in your future. Stop romancing the past and let's start romancing the future. So the unlearning process, 95% of who we are is a set of memorized behaviors, emotional responses, unconscious habits, hardwired attitudes, beliefs, perceptions, automatic like a computer program. So if we're in a program, then we're unconscious. So in order for us to change, we have to become conscious of our unconscious thoughts and the story and the narrative that we tell and those memories, to become familiar with how we speak or how we act, to become so conscious that we don't go unconscious to that behavior.
So what he's saying is that we basically react, reenact, recreate what our past beliefs or our past experiences or stories that have been developed from that. And The thing is what happens is we recreate in our current present and into the future based on what has happened in the past or the story or both. And so then we keep on reconfirming and creating evidence of it until we get so clear and so aware of all the times and all the ways that we are limiting or restricting ourselves. And I mean, noticing every thought that comes through. And I swear to God, this is what I do every single day. And sometimes it'll be very loud days where I notice, wow, hey, beautiful jealous part. Hey, beautiful critical part. Hey, beautiful fearful part. And this is where I'm going to be explaining this framework where we bring together all the things I love: human design, Kabbalah, Vedic, IFS, somatics, archetypes, quantum physics. Because when we can do this every single day and you then become an energetic frequency and energetic match for what you're calling in, because all of these stories and all of these limitations that are happening in your own mind. Remember, in this life, it's you and you. It's you and you, baby. In this life, it's you and you. Everything else is just your perception. It's you and you, and there's no comparison. There's no competition. It's you and you. It's you and the divine, if anything. And that's why if I look back on my journey, the most important relationships, the most important motivator in my life has always been my relationship to self and and the divine. Because from there, I'm on purpose. From there, I'm in my mission. From there, I'm in true devotion. And from there, you feel all the good feelings, all the fulfillment, all the desire manifest, all the growth and connection to self, your truth, your inner life force. And so anything other than that, anything other than love, abundance, expansiveness, purpose, mission, limitless, unbounded, anything else than that, any other story that tells you you can't do something, or that something's not possible, or you're not enough, or they're not enough, any form of judgment, including to other people, 100% including to other people, especially if you're like, oh, they're a bit surface level for me, or any form of gossiping, any form of lack, that is false. That is illusion. That is keeping you small. That's keeping you on a timeline that is lower than we need to be on. That is keeping you away from what you manifest and what you desire. So when we understand that life is always working in your favor, and life will give you invitations, initiations, options to step into a higher timeline, because that's what we're here for. This is where free will and destiny comes in, is that we have lots of parallel destinies, and our free will is which one we step into. And this is where self-belief and self-concept comes in. You know, I never believed in myself. I want to just reflect on this. I never believed in myself, but I believed, once I really understood and gave myself the option to, I believed life force. I believed in the abundant, incredible nature of Mother Nature, of the universe. And when I could put my trust into that and move where I felt called, I started to create that belief in self, because it's so important to, if it's too far away from you to believe in self, but to believe in the energy that is moving through you, and just give the option that in the everyday, you are being given an initiation to expand, to be more free, and always being invited into your highest evolution. And this is how you truly manifest. It's, yes, we set an intention, but it's not so much the way that you try and figure out how it's going to happen. It's more in the fact that you align and become the person that naturally creates this. You become a co-creator. And this means you're going to step through fear. And this means you're going to step through uncertainty. And this means you have to do your own spiritual work, because it won't make logical sense how it comes into your life. As I said, the future is drawing you in, and be careful what you wish for, because you will be given and shown all the ways that are out of alignment in what you are calling in. So if you are calling in a successful business that feels purposeful and meaningful, it's going to show you all the ways that you making yourself small, all the ways that you care what people think, all the ways that you fear being misunderstood, all the ways that you are limiting yourself. And it will do it by making it even more challenging, so you get provoked to look at it. And what Joe Dispenza was saying there is that when we become so aware of every single conscious thought, because that conscious thought is creating your action, that's creating your reality. So I'll actually give an example. If you have the conscious thought that you don't know enough. So if you don't know enough, let's just say you're not going to share. You're going to maybe not show up in your business or do the thing because you tell yourself you don't know enough, even though you've done all the courses, even though you've lived the life experience, but your self-belief and your story says that you don't know enough. So what's going to happen? You're going to be challenged on that. You're going to have people that come to you and say, hey, where'd you learn from? Hey, I'll ask you a challenging question, see how you go with it. Hey, how long have you actually been doing this? Like testing you on it so you can see and become at peace in this expansion, in this option. You will be tantalized or provoked to really step into your knowing and in your worth and in your power. And so, as I said, people always ask me, like, what I do in the day to day. And it's not the typical spiritually tools. It really isn't. I definitely do meditate because that helps me witness the stories. It helps me witness when I'm in the not self. It helps me witness when I'm too much in my logical mind. It helps me witness when I'm being very self-critical or when I'm judging, not to be enmeshed with these parts. And so let's talk about the law of assumption, where there is a reality and what you desire is already created. And sometimes that's hard for the logical mind to understand, but we have to again think that everything is happening in the now. Everything. Your past happens in the now, your future happens in the now. You right now are happening in the now. That's all we have. That's all we know. Everything else is just a figment of our memory or our imagination. And so what you desire is happening right now in a different timeline. When you feel that vision, when you feel that knowing, you might be having dreams about it. You just like, you sense it. You have this intuitive calling, all of these things. You may just have a feeling. That's because it's made for you. There's another version of you already experiencing it. And so we need to realize that there is a bridge of events that gets us and steps us into that timeline. Now, I actually just wrote this on my Instagram. I'm going to read what I wrote. So it's all about aligning to our higher expression where the things we desire are already happening. So realize that your future is drawing you forward with the next available intuitive step now. It won't make sense to your current logical consciousness. That's the whole point. If it's in a new timeline, if it's in a different level or a bigger expression of yourself, it's not going to make sense to your current consciousness. So that's why it should feel stretchy. It's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel scary. That's the whole point. That is the whole point. And you got this. You have done the scary thing before and you're starting to show your subconscious, you're showing your nervous system that you can trust this new level of expansion, similar to what you would have moved through a year ago, 2 years ago, 2 months ago. And so, yes, have the support mechanisms in place. At the same time, understand that you can hold the discomfort and all good comes on the other side. So what happens in terms of bridge of events is that, and think of it as like a bridging to your next timeline, that it unfolds in a series of seemingly random or coincidental events that naturally guide you from your current reality to your desired outcome. So this is where we all have had this, where it's like, I don't really know why I'm meant to do this course. I don't really know why I'm meant to go on this retreat. I don't really know why this trip is calling me so strongly, or reach out to this person, or start this thing, or follow this idea. We think in our logical mind of what we're going to gain, and it's usually not ever that. It's usually something else. And we have to realize that life is moving around us in ways that we don't understand and our logical mind just can't conceive. Our logical mind, it's too overwhelming. And like, that's why I would say, don't even try and get your head around with the time being nonlinear and being vertical. That it will drop when it's meant to drop, trust me. And same with you are God and you are source. That drops when it's meant to drop. Keep on being in the environment, keep being in the space and connected to self. You'll connect more and more to it. But following your intuition means you don't really understand how this is all going to unfold. You can't connect the dots forward, but you connect the dots backwards. That's what Steve Jobs said. And so the universe, like, it does it in ways that we can't understand how it correlates until it looks so obvious. And of course, in hindsight. So there's always going to be uncertainty and fear, but by assuming your reality is already fulfilled, because you wouldn't have the desire if it wasn't already on another timeline of yours, you align to a more free expression of self and create safety and knowing in your subconscious of what's for you. So at the end of the day, this is a more empowering story. If we just even put it to the bare basics, even if it's real or not, I never want to preach that you have to believe what I have experienced. But at the same time, this is an empowering story, and this is going to mean that you move forward, and this is going to mean that you create what you want to create. So allowing the how to take care of itself and move towards the next available step while seeing where life is inviting you in similarly unrelated ways, often in a way that seems illogical at first, but so natural and obvious in retrospect. So I just said that on Instagram because you really loved the podcast or the solo podcast about Let It Not Make Logical Sense. And I'll link it below because I definitely recommend if you haven't already, is that we don't see how the energetics of, for example, your relationship to your mother connects with your coaching and whether you can connect with your dream clients. We don't see how when you're giving an invitation to be really kind to yourself in that moment and step into an abundance thinking, how that then connects you to connecting with your future soulmate the week later or the month later. All we can do is understand that life will always provide you with opportunities and invitations to expand in your truest, highest, evolved, free self. And from there, you are on the timeline that naturally draws in and creates what you desire. So, as I said, think of it as like how I like to see it as parallel destinies. So right now, look, there's a destiny that I haven't tapped into. We're always going to have them. This is the process of being a human. And so I can see where I'm being invited in different ways in my life in order to really what it is just freeing yourself, being able to release any limitations and heal any parts of you that feels not enough or feels afraid. And so when you see that your most important relationship is your relationship to yourself and to the divine, that needs to be your first priority. And people wonder and people ask me how you've created what you've created and how you live the life you live and your relationship to self. Because really, gosh, I can't even explain like how different my life was and my communication to self. If you told me you were the divine or you can do whatever you want, I would say, oh, like, that sounds good, but not for me. That sounds good. That's all well and good for you to say. And so, but what has been the constant is my undying motivation and desire to, like, if something came up, it was my job. It was my job to see how do we move through this? What is my blind spot? What is this showing me? Always being in this understanding that life presents to you with, as I said, these gifts of, hey, you can become free through this, even if it's going to feel really challenging and even if it's going to be really hard, even if you're going to have that really tough conversation, even if you're going to have to cry and shed all those stories that you thought were once true or those identities you thought were once yours. And I love the quote that the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it was to blossom. And that's what often will happen. Life will make things so challenging and so uncertain so that you step into a bigger expression of yourself, so that you start trusting and changing your life. You know, we think of the quote of, you can't solve a problem from the same mind that created it. This is why we got to witness every single conscious thought or behavior that is coming through us, because in the everyday is when you transform. And so what I have seen, for example, if a big part of your freedom and your journey and your deconditioning is letting yourself rest, letting yourself be kinder to yourself. And this is why so many projectors especially will go and have like a really pleasurable or restful day, not with the expectation that this means it'll be good for my business. No, this is because out of your freedom, and this is the truest, most intuitive desire from your body and your soul in this moment, then you get your sales. Not when you're groveling, not when you're coming from lack, not when your behavior is driven by fear. And so it's not about doing the right things or trying to figure things out or doing the quote unquote right action. It's where you're being invited in every moment to become the more free, expanded version of yourself. Doing that, shifting the energy around that, that's what's going to elevate you into a different timeline. That's what's going to draw in the destiny and the experience naturally. You're going to move forward in a way that your highest self would. You do the behavior that is true for you rather than follow on just the habits and the behaviors of your not self, of your past patterning. So we need to become aware of every single part, because life will trigger and provoke that within you. And this is why we shift timelines, not when everything's all going easy breezy. It's when the challenge occurs. It's when that limited thought then creates our behavior. When we stop that, that is the evolution. That is the timeline jump. So everything in our life is a story. So the only truth is that you are divine energy having a human experience. So I really truly believe that we all go through a experience of feeling separate. And if you feel separate from that divine life force energy or nature or higher energy, of course you're going to feel less than. Like, let's think about it. And then of course the ego is going to make stories around you being less than. It gets creative, gets very, very creative of, yeah, as I said, you don't know enough, or people don't care what you have to say, or you don't have an interesting story enough, or you're not pretty enough. We create these stories. We develop these protective parts that are trying to keep us safe by staying the same. But what it ends up doing is just leaving us feeling really unsatisfied, unfulfilled, and unsuccessful in our true sense of self. So when we realize that I'm talking like any other story, there's not one story that you can tell me that I'm not going to be able to debunk. This is what I do for a living, trust me, but you can do the same for yourself. And this is what I do all the time, every single day. It takes seconds, but when you understand this framework that I'm going to be sharing in a moment, this is how you transform. This is how you grow. This is how you manifest. Yeah, and this is not as fun or as sexy as writing your manifestation list, as doing the vision board, as doing your visualizations, as doing your affirmations, all these things. Like, look, if it works for you, amazing. That's not been my journey. My journey has been in the everyday, and has been when life has showed me that this is a way that you are constricting yourself, and this is a way that you are not in your true limitless energy. Whether it was like codependency in relationships, whether it was keeping myself small in business, whether it was fearing to be seen. A lot of people will say this to me. I don't really post on social media in my personal account. So how am I going to do it in my business account? Like, I just am not that person. Honey, I never had a personal, like my personal account. Let me look at when I last posted on my personal account. Let's have a look. I don't even sign into this thing. Last time I posted was 2022 in my personal account. That was in December. The post before that was in June 2022. So 6 months later. Another time was 5 months before that in February 2022. So look, I posted once in 2021. I posted twice in a whole year, 2022. I posted once in 2019. I posted once in 2018. So, but my mission is bigger. Do you think that like I couldn't give two shits about Instagram? Instagram is just an avenue for me to be able to share what I'm passionate about and to connect with the people that I want to connect with. This is what I do. This is why I love this podcast, because I can share and connect. This feels so true for me. And this feels like I can't not do this. So any of these stories that tell you why you can't do something. And when you see that life force is just wanting to move through you, and when you see that you are divine energy here to create and manifest what feels deeply meaningful for you, you can just move towards that. And then life will show you where you're misaligned with your true self energy. And in the moments where you transform that energy, because there's always going to be something, let me just remind you, gossiping to other people or bringing other people down, all energy returns to creator. Or feeling like people aren't good enough, rather than just seeing that you got two divine people connecting with each other, like feeling like you have to control everything is another thing. Being really self-critical, telling yourself you don't know enough, telling yourself you're not enough, telling yourself something's not possible for you. Again, it's lower frequency energy. Now, the thing we have to realize is that no energy is good or bad. Energy is either high or low, fast or slow. And this is what scientists speak about, is that it's not about always being in the good energy or bad energy. And this is where we think of this idea of good or bad emotions, or other people have good or bad energy. No, that's literally not a thing. Quite literally not a thing. It's high or low, fast or slow. And so people that are in that high energy, and that doesn't mean that it's this frantic go, go, go energy. No, it's that high frequency, that love. Love is high frequency. And low frequency is going to be judgment, even if you're doing all the right things, even if you're perfecting something. Like, High energy is always what's going to transform and magnetize. And also it brings up the collective. This same study was talking about how most of the collective is in that low energy. But what happens is that when you have the high energy, it actually brings up all the energy of the collective. You're doing your own work, and high energy is just your life force. That's following your gut. That's following your desires. That's doing the thing that makes you feel fulfilled, doing the thing that makes you feel good. That is it. When you are stuck in the stories, when you are reacting, when you're reacting from a place of not enoughness, judgment, of lack, that is going to be that low energy. So it's always like we're shifting from darkness low to high light, which is your truth. Everything is your truth is light. You can't cheat the universe. You can't cheat your own healing. You can't cheat life. You can't cheat it. You absolutely can't cheat it. Being conscious, those thoughts can come up, but be conscious. Where am I in my ego? Where am I in my stories? Where am I judging? Where am I judging myself? Because in the transformation of that, for example, when you go to feel yourself saying something and you say, wait, this is not my highest expression of self. Would you be saying this to the divine? Would your higher self be saying this? And if not, just draw that energy back, transform that energy. And I'm going to give you the framework that you can move through. And so with the law of assumption, we need to be remembering that, as I said, there's a timeline where what you desire is happening and we're aligning to it in not obvious ways. And think about it. If you truly believe that what you desire is inevitable and happening, you're going to move differently in the world. You're not going to come from fear or scarcity or lack. You're going to move with intention and ease and knowing and creative ideas, because in no way, if you were coming from fear or not enoughness, is that going to be valuable behavior coming on from it? So this is why we always come back. That's why we can move through this framework in any period, in any time in your life. So the framework, so how it works, this is what I do every single day. And this has become muscle memory. And I trust that it will become muscle memory to you if you apply it and you allow it. I truly think that this is a hack of life. And when you realize that, you will become more free, heal the parts that may be blended and directing and taking over your life, creating fear and insecurity, and meaning that you don't do the things that are meant for you, or you stay in relationships or in places that aren't supportive to your highest self and to your highest evolution. So you're going to be given options and invitations all day long. That's why I don't think you need to ever go looking for something. Life will present you, okay, this is your thing that you're ready to uncover, and this is your thing you're ready to release from, or this is your thing you're ready to transform in. Here we are. Here you go, so that you can connect with that true self energy and all the things that are so divinely meant for you. So number one, whenever anything happens in your life, any form of trigger, and I mean, it's not external, I'm saying internal as well. You just might have a thought. Everything starts with a thought. A thought is just as powerful as any external manifestation of a thought. So even a thought of judgment, even a thought of insecurity, even a thought of doubt. I'm talking not just people telling you doubt. I'm not talking that people just telling you something or you getting an external reconfirmation of a story. I'm talking the words of the story in your head. So this is an acronym that has come through with the acronym of power. POWER. And I do this all day, every day. Some days it's more prevalent, other days it's not so needed, but every day, absolutely every day. And this is why when people were asking me, I really had to, I was going to say, I really had to sit down and work it out. Of course I didn't. I was on a walk and it downloaded, of course. And of course it was like, it's power. P is this, and O is this, and W is this, and E is this, and R is this. Of course, it just downloads when you're connected, because every single one of your answers and ideas are already within you. It's not that you sit down and you figure it out. It's there. It's just creating space and awareness and tuning in and then trusting and following it. So imagine if I was like, that was silly and I'm not going to share it on the podcast. Let's see if it helps you, but this has really helped me. And this has been also nice to just see what I was doing without actually consciously aware of what I was doing. Okay, so it starts with P. The acronym again is power, starting with P. Pause, create space, pause. Exactly what Joe Dispenza says. Don't let any unconscious thought go past your conscious awareness. Pause. This is why our connection to self is so important, because if it's just going unconscious, this is where people are in autopilot, and then they're wondering why their life feels so unfulfilled, and they're in their stories. They are their story. They actually are their story, because they don't realize it's a story. They think that reality is their story rather than seeing like, hey, I just have another story. Hey, I just had that another illusionary thought that I'm not enough. Hey, I just had this illusionary thought that life is not supporting me. Hey, I just had this illusionary thought that there is somehow competition here. I just had an illusionary thought that there is somehow lack here. I had an illusionary thought that somehow this isn't possible for me or that's not going to happen for me. Cool. Notice it. Pause. What an opportunity. What an opportunity. What a beautiful opportunity that this is showing up for your freedom. This is showing up to become conscious, to become aware, and to see, wow, I'm having a big sensation in my body. I'm starting to believe this, or I'm feeling triggered by that person, or this person's rude. Wow, what an opportunity I'm being given here to transform. Then we have W, witness. And I put it, there's two words for this one, witness and love. Witness, and this is where I bring in a bit of parts work. Witness your fearful, uncomfortable parts and stream them love. So this is what I do. I'll witness. So for example, I have, let's say a thought of comparison or lack or not enoughness. I will, okay, pause. What an opportunity I'm being given to transform darkness into light, to step into a higher timeline, to free myself in some way, to get more connected to what I desire, to be more abundant, to be more at peace, to be more in hope, to be more in my fulfillment, to be in my true self energy. Wow, what an opportunity. Like, truly feel grateful for that. This is such an opportunity where I'm going to be more free and I know what's going to come on the other side. Even though I don't know the cause and effect, this will get me exactly why. No, usually that's you're too attached. It's not that I'm thinking that. It's absolutely got nothing to do with me being like, oh, that will mean that I have an extra client or that will mean that I'll have an extra payout. No, not attachment to the outcome, but just knowing that I'm becoming more free. So if I'm more of an abundant life force, I'm going to receive back that same energy. So, okay, witness your parts. So there are parts of you that are scared. There are parts of you that feel threatened in this moment or truly feel not enough or truly feel judgmental or truly feel unsafe. And so I'm not about bulldozing over that. I think give love to that. How I do it, and this is like a little bit of a interesting visual, but this is what I genuinely do, is I used to love Power Rangers as a kid. You know, where they would just stream the light and the energy from their hands. I just send so much love, so much love, so much love, like stream it love, like almost like out to that part of, I see that you are scared. I see and understand that you're afraid of being rejected in that moment. I validate that. I just feel into that version of myself. I feel into that part of, I know that you're trying to protect me. I know that you're afraid, but we're going to transform this fear into light, into truth. And so it gets those parts on board. It's not about ignoring that you're going to be afraid or ignoring that this feels uncomfortable or ignore that you feel unsafe in that moment. And by the way, if it is a bigger thing, it's going to maybe be a bit more of a process than this. This is just what I do within a few seconds in your everyday. Because look, we're not going to have every single moment, okay, I've got to do my subconscious meditation to heal this part of me, or my 20-minute journaling exercise. Yes, create proactive time for that, if that's what is being called. Otherwise, I really have found that just awareness and sending love to that part and an acknowledgement of that part just means that it doesn't feel like it's on defense mode. It means it doesn't feel like it has to actively stop you or protect you or interfere in the process. You're giving awareness of, okay, right now I have a part of me that feels a lot of lack. I'm going to send so much love to that part. I have a part of me that feels like no one's going to come to my event or my workshop. I have a part of me that feels like if I say this thing to the guy I'm dating, that he's going to turn around and never want to speak to me again. I want to validate that part because that is important. I send so much love to that part because that disengages that part, or it feels like that part can just take a deep breath and not feel like it has to be in protector mode. Then embody. Connect with your body, connect with your strategy, connect with your authority. What feels most expansive in this moment? Because in the lack, in the fear, in the judgment, you're going to feel constrictive. That feels like a very constrictive energy. That's also going to tell you that if it's an illusion, if it feels constrictive, and if it feels abundant, if it feels limited, and it feels like it keeps you in a box, or it feels like you almost have to shut down. And when we realize, like, what is the most expansive? Where does my life force want to move me forward? This is really your authority. This is your authority in human design. It's where I've connected with human design of who am I truly? Who do I know that I truly am as a 5-1 projector that has this curiosity to move towards this? Okay, amazing. Embody your true self energy. And then for R, respond, not react. With all of this, we're not reacting. When we react, just from instant reaction, that is when we're staying on the same timeline there. It's habitual behavior. And so when you are responding proactively, and what I actually ask myself is, what would be the response that would make my divine self proud, my highest self proud? What would make universal energy proud in this moment? And it's going to be very different because there's not going to be one answer. And if you just put that intention there, they say that prayer is speaking to God and intuition is God speaking to you of, yeah, what would be for my highest good and for their highest good and feels most in my integrity. And so it might be for one person setting a boundary. For another person, it might be flexible with your boundary. It's always going to be very different depending on what is your highest path. And it's often going to be the thing that's most uncomfortable to the conscious mind, but what feels most true to the unconscious soul. So this is the framework that I honestly do all day, every day. Okay, I get the awareness. I get the awareness that there is a limiting thought. There is a judgmental thought. There is a thought around lack or scarcity or fear. Okay, beautiful. No shame. Pause. What an opportunity I am being given to transform this. What is this showing me? What is this inviting from me? You're in that moment changing who you are. You are no longer just running off habitual programming from the past. You are changing who you are. So you shift on a different timeline. So you have a different expression of yourself so that you are more free. And then from that place, move in that direction. When you see that in the present moment, I am being initiated or invited to become more free in some way and like mission accepted rather than resist it, because it'll just keep coming in stronger, bigger ways because life is working in your favor and in your benefit, even if it doesn't always feel like that. Your intuition doesn't always feel great to follow your intuition. There's going to be fear and there's going to be discomfort because you're shifting and changing habitual patterns. You're creating new neural pathways. Your neuroplasticity is quite literally changing in that moment. You're becoming a different person. I can truly say that I am a totally different person to who I was 6 years ago, even 3 years ago. And I'm sure you can say the same. So you have to trust that you have the next available step right now, that your future self is drawing you forward. And it's not going to make full sense or feel fully comfortable in your current consciousness, but you have a knowing that you are being stretched and expanded forward, and you're going to create safety in your body as you do, because you're just creating more and more evidence to support that you can trust this. And from there, knowing that you will be so grateful looking back 2 years on, 2 months on. So life is always working in your favor. And when you become free in every moment, when you transform the reactive behavior, that's the thing. Sometimes it can feel good to taste a bit of light when you react. It's like, oh, that felt good to badmouth that person. Or, oh, it felt good to send that message to my ex. If it's coming from reactive, pause, what an opportunity. Pause, what a gift. Pause, I am being given an opportunity to quite literally become a new person. Because when I become a new person, I am going to align to the timeline of what I desire. Because there is a reason why you haven't created it yet. And you can even ask yourself, like, why hasn't this happened for me intuitively? And as I said, ask the universe, connect with your body, connect with your strategy and authority. Your human design is saying, this is your higher self. This is who you truly are. Anything that is the not self behavior is not your truth. That is an illusion. And so any behavior or any actions that come from that not self of lack, or I should do something, it's just going to create more of that negativity in your life. It's just going to create the same patterns that you're trying to break free from. And so you are being given the opportunity 100 times a day of, can you change this pattern? And this happens incrementally. It happens in the moment where you catch yourself, you notice when you're going down a spiral. No, we don't do that anymore. No, pause. What an opportunity. Witness the part that is judging. Witness the part that is insecure. Give love to that part. Validate that part. But that is not your true self. That's not your soul self. You're witnessing as your higher self. Then embody, connect with your body. Where do you feel called to go? What feels the most expansive avenue? Ask the universe. It might not come instantly, but it will come at one point. The clarity will drop in, create space for it. Embody your true self energy and then respond from that place. What would make your true self, the divine self, proud in that moment? And usually that is going to be step through the fear. Usually that's going to be have the tough conversation. Usually it's going to be kind to yourself. This is the everyday. This is what I do. This is what I do. I notice, okay, I'm feeling like me doing this thing in my business feels really super scary and stretchy, but I know deep down that there's something here. We witness the fearful parts, we give love to those fearful parts, and we moved forward on what I know is true and loving for me. What is the expression that's going to make you your most free, loving life force? So connect with this power framework. P, pause. O, opportunity. What an opportunity. Reframe it. Be grateful. Like the energy of gratitude will create more of this high energy. W, witness and love on the parts, on the uncomfortable parts, on the fearful parts. It's going to feel uncomfortable and it's going to feel fearful. E, embody, connect with your body, connect with your strategy, your authority, follow the expansion, the life force, your prana. That's what's going to create what you're here to create. And that's what's going to connect and draw people in because people just want to connect with life force. Ah, respond as your divine highest self, not reaction. And then from that place, the problem actually dissolves. It's not that you have to solve the problem. It dissolves. Trust me. And I'm sure you've experienced this in your life. It dissolves. It no longer needs to be there because you no longer needed to be activated to transform something into light. It's already been transformed. So the whole problem doesn't exist. It's been dissolved. Think of the light has now dissolved the problem. And you learn a valuable lesson along the way. And so when you can continue to embody that, you become a more free version of yourself, the truest version of yourself. It's already there. You are the sun and the clouds have just come in front of the rays and it's clearing the clouds, transforming into the truth of your light. And this is why it's so important to be in full awareness and conscious awareness of your life, noticing with the patterns, noticing with the thoughts, catching yourself with the thoughts. This is why meditation has been really helpful for me. As you know, nature walks, just space, because then you notice things. Sometimes you might not notice until you're 3 hours later in a spiral. And I just want to normalize that. And I will tell you that the time period will get shorter and shorter until you notice it the second. 1 second, you can see and hear the story. But just try and practice and experiment with this power tool, this power practice. Let's call it the power practice. So I hope this serves you. It's been a fun little one to record. This framework is creating corrective behavior and creating safety in your nervous system of a different story, of a different reality. So play with that. Let me know how that goes. Please let me know how this resonated. It always means so much to me when I hear from you. If it feels aligned, I would love if you could please rate and review the pod. It helps me so much. And it also means that we can get really great guests. So thank you for being here. And yeah, just to normalize that your self-concept, your self-belief, your self-knowing, your stories will shape what timeline, how you receive, when you receive. And it's not about, I do X in my business, so I make X money. Okay? That's just your logical mind actually keeping you small. It's no, how am I being invited into a bigger, higher, more free expression of myself and knowing that everything you desire is inevitable from that place, truly inevitable. And it doesn't have to come from this like magical place. Maybe you just have the money to buy the thing. I think that's another thing. I've seen one person as well, like everything has to come from this really magical way of manifesting. No, you've manifested the money and the freedom so that you can then buy the thing that you want to buy. That is also manifestation. It's creation. It's you're the person who that is normal for them to go to the organic store and buy all their groceries from that. It's normal for you to book a trip 2 weeks out and go overseas. We're here for the freedom, liberation, connection to divine energy, and to unburden ourselves from limiting ways or limiting beliefs that we came here to become free from. Okay, my loves, thank you for listening and so grateful for you. And I will see you and speak to you next week.